Welcome back, everyone. So, in this one, we're going to be going through um, just going through a simple quick start for starting up a Kafka cluster. All right. So, we want to be able to get it up and running, and more importantly, if you follow along on um, the Kafka docs, you will be able to then actually get some of this. So, we're not going to be doing any event streaming as of yet. All right. So we'll just be starting it up and getting some messages to come through, and also maybe look at how we can actually get some real-time messages going. Right. So we'll start up a producer, we'll start up a consumer, start up the Kafka cluster with a zookeeper and a server. All right. So let's begin and go through step one. All right. So um, let's actually look at this. So we're going to be doing this firstly on Windows. All right. There is the Mac instructions, which are in a separate video as well, like with the instructions. So with this one, we're going to be going through and setting it up on a Windows. So I've kind of set this up in such a way that it is logical and it is the correct way of setting of beginning your Kafka cluster. Right? So the first thing you want to do is begin your zookeeper. Now, if you can remember in the last session, we made some changes to the zookeeper config file, um, and that is where we're going to be pointing this particular um, Kafka cluster towards. Right? So we're going to be saying, look at this particular config file where we've made some changes, and I want you to actually affect some of those changes. All right. So let's begin and actually look at that. So first thing is first, we need to start up a terminal. Now, most of the work that we're going to be doing is on a terminal, and it's also going to be on separate terminals. So each time you're going to be running a different set of commands, you're going to be opening up a new terminal window. All right? So please also be able to keep that in mind. All right. So let's begin and run our first terminal. Okay. And in this terminal, we're going to be looking particularly at starting up the zookeeper. All right. So if you can remember, I said this is the startup file. So let us begin with the first one. All right, which is starting up the zookeeper. And to do that, we're going to enter in the following terminal command. So let's go to the terminal. All right, and it is going to be simply this: dot backslash bin backslash windows backslash zookeeper dash server dash start dot bat. That is the file that we're going to be pointing it towards. And if you can remember, we've already navigated into the Kafka folder. So from this folder, it's a little bit easier to actually then just say, go to this particular folder, right, the bin folder. If this were not the case, if we were just at C drive, we would then basically have to then add in that you need to go to C, you need to go into Kafka, so it will be dot backslash Kafka backslash bin. But in this instance, we're only in the Kafka folder, so I'm going to add in the dot backslash Kafka. And once again, we are wanting to point it to a particular config file, and the config file that we're using is going to be dot backslash config backslash zookeeper dot properties. All right. This is where we're going to now be starting up our server. And if you just hit enter, it is then going to go through and start creating our server. And what we want is to look for this particular message over here. All right, binding to port 2181. That basically means that we've just started up the server and it's listing on that port number. Right? The zookeeper is going to make that port available and is going to be stored and reserved for running your Kafka cluster. Right? So that is a very important port. That is a very important way of identifying that your Kafka cluster is running. All right. So some of these are the settings over here. We will go through them in another session. However, just be aware that you already know that your zookeeper is running and you've already set it to port 2181. All right. You can change that depending on the kind of environment that you're running this on. I'm just keeping it standard because I just want to get this up and running. All right. So there we go. It is indeed up this particular one where you're starting at the server without starting up is Zookeeper. It would fail. All right, so it will basically run and then terminate because the Zookeeper is, think of it as an environment in which it is then reserving the port for it to run. All right, so it's not a mistake to think that they call it the zookeeper. It must feel like it's a real zookeeper who's keeping all the animals in check. All right, that your server being one of them. You should also be mindful of the fact that each server is an individual cluster, so you can have it running across multiple. Right? You can start up multiple servers, right? And each one is then going to have its own um, local host. In this instance, we need to be mindful of the fact that we don't want to be having lots of multiple local hosts running. We just want to be able to have it running on just that one. All right, so let's actually then get started with setting up for this one. All right. So in this instance, you need to be aware of the fact that what we're going to be doing, all right, is we're going to be looking also again at that config server.properties file that we made changes to, all right. And once again, it is going to require a new terminal, all right. So please just be mindful of the fact that it is going to require a new terminal. And we're also going to be saying start up the server and link it to the zookeeper that is actually running and listening on port 2181. All right. So with that having been said, let's actually get started and run a particular line of code. So very similar to what we ran for the zookeeper, right? So we've already CD'd into um, the Kafka folder, all right? So the next logical step will be to then just enter in the code that we want, which is dot backslash bin backslash windows backslash Kafka dash server dash start dot bat. That is the file. And I want you to look at these particular server properties. They are in dot backslash config backslash server dot properties. Now that we have this up and running, all right, you will then also be able to then look through and see, very important, there we go, opening socket connection to server, right? So that is where it's going to be um, listening to that port number, right? So the local host uh, port, there it is. So um, all connections to that port are then open, right? Hence all zeros. Um, so we know that it is actually going to be listening out on that particular number, all right? So that is a very important one, all right? In addition to that, there is one further setting that we're hoping we'll be able to see. There we go. Info station socket connection established. So there we go. All right, so it opened up the socket, and here we go. It has been established and solidified. So we now know that it's actually running, all right? And we want to make sure that now that it's running, we are now able to then do the next logical step, which is ideally creating some of um, the topics that we want to be listening out for. Now, each topic, consider it as kind of a stream, right? So each topic is going to be something that we're going to be listening out for, and we want to be able to listen out for the different topics and say, all right, this particular topic is over here. I didn't get that. So could you try again? Pardon, that is Siri. So what we want to be able to do is identify um, all the different streams and the kinds of messages we're going to be getting on the streams. If you remember, I said that you would be able to then listen to different kinds of IoT devices. So, for instance, if you wanted to listen to, thermometers on one side, you would then set that up to be in a particular topic. If you wanted to get um, comments from YouTube, for instance, that would then be set up on a different topic. If you wanted to get IP addresses, you would then set that up on a different topic as well. So these are some of the things that you would then be looking up and kind of thinking about it logically, as in what information do I want to be streaming over here? What kind of information do I want to be in this stream? So that you then have a logical order in which how you get your different messages, right? Because it would be a little bit chaotic if everything is coming in at exactly the same time, without any logical order as to what is it that is coming on this particular batch of messages, right? And don't forget that Kafka can take up to, I think, about, in fact, over 10,000 messages per second. That is an enormous amount of data that will be coming through streaming, right, per second. And if you're going to be having all of that kind of data streaming in per second, and it's not ordered in any way, it's going to create a little bit of confusion, all right? You would not be getting it streaming into a data lake, you'd be getting it streaming into a data swamp. We don't want that, all right? So let's actually look at how we would then organize our topics. And I've given you this particular one as well. All right? So once again, you would then CD into the relevant um, Kafka folder. All right? So you open up a new terminal and CD into the correct Kafka folder. All right? And in that Kafka folder, you would then start creating your topics. All right? Now, I have already created some topics previously, so we're gonna have to be creative in terms of how we manage these topics, all right, on our end. So let's actually begin and create our first topic. All right. So as you can see, I've got a terminal window open, and in my terminal window, I am then going to enter in the following line of code. Much longer than before, but pretty important. All right. So it is going to be dot bin windows dot backslash bin backslash windows backslash Kafka dash topics dot bat. That is the file name that you want to be starting up. All right. And then I'm going to be giving it a set of instructions. I want you to create. All right. So hence dash dash create, and then space dash dash bootstrap server. All right. And this is important. There are some Kafka services which use a different notation, all right? But in this instance, Scalar 12.3 uses dash dash bootstrap dash server, all right? With others, I think it does as point to dash zookeeper um, server or zookeeper localhost. So just be mindful of that. You might just have to try one or the other. And I've given you both in um, I've given you both in the start file, right? So if Bootstrap doesn't work, then you know that the Zookeeper one will work, right? Because that is where your server or your local host is, all right? So localhost 9092, that is the host that we're going to be running on. This is different to the port that we were running on, so please be mindful of that one, all right? And then replication factor of 1, all right? So this is how many times it is then to replicate itself over, right? This particular stream especially, all right? And your partitions, I've only got it off across one partition for now. And the topic, I then have to stipulate what the topic is. So as I said, I have created invoices before. So if I were to try and run it, it would then tell me that, oh no, I cannot run it. All right. So please be mindful of that. Yeah. One client connection to load. Localhost cannot be established. Broken may not be available. Okay. So I think broker that I am trying to connect onto is incorrect. So I would just need to double, double check that particular connection node. If I remember correctly, that needs to be changed, of course. Okay, so in this instance, it will be okay. Really would be helpful if I actually made note of this. So, my node is in natural fact in this one 2181. Hence, it is timing out. Right, so, and I am then also going to create a new topic. So, topic, in fact, let's call it test topic because I am creating like that, right? So, test topic. Hopefully, this time it does run. Doesn't usually give grief like this. Okay, so let's see if it does actually pick up. So usually it does go a little bit quicker. This is a little bit of a slow day. Though, mind you, I'm also running quite a few things on my machine at the moment. So that's just one of the reasons why it's actually complaining and saying, oh, I've got quite a few programs running. Pick one to kill. Okay, so it is timing out. 10. Okay, so let's try this one last time. Okay, so test topic. Okay, so it seems like the connection to that node is not disabled. Okay, well, it seems like I have managed to not get it up and running again, so I might just have to do some changes over there. But usually, my local host should have been up and running already. Um, so not too sure why it is not agreeing with me today, but nonetheless. So Ostensibly, what you would then be doing in this instance is just waiting for it to time out. Okay, I think what needs to happen is let me rerun this entire cluster again, and once it is actively running, then I will pick up from here. So I want just to have to sit through this entire session, waiting for this cluster to run again. So we'll just take a quick break and get it to run up again momentarily. So I'm going to close all of the active terminals and then or thereafter get them to run afresh. So we'll see each other just after this little break. All right, welcome back. So I did have to rerun the entire cluster again. There was just something that I had not, so I had not allowed it to set up the initial connection story that started, but just wasn't patient in terms of waiting for it to finish. And the replica was also starting up because I have started some of these topics beforehand previously, and it's basically picking up all of those different backups, all those replicas, and it had to work through that. So let's now get to the next part. So we're going to try and set up test topic once again, all right, and see how it reacts. So we've created test topic, and there we go, created test topic. Awesome. All right. We could then decide to change, um, the topic and call it remove stuff. Also, please be aware, once you've created a topic, um, you would then have to delete it. However, it is persistent. So you've created that stream, and on this particular cluster, it will persist. All right. We'll get into how to actually modify some of these streams and manage how many different kinds of topics you have. But essentially, that's all you would need to do to then create a new topic. So you would just um, enter in backslash dot backslash bin windows backslash Kafka topics create, and then you specify the local host that it's running on once you make sure that it's running, and then create the replication factor, which is your backup, and the number of partitions, which is basically where you know how much in terms of it can how much data it can actually handle across a particular cluster. And so that is basically what your partition will be. And in this instance, I just said one partition because I'm not going to be doing um, quite a lot. You could decide to have zero partitions, not ideal, but you could decide to have zero partitions. Um, and good luck to you if you do that. So I just prefer to have just one. It's just for starting up, just seeing it running. Um, and also um, please be also aware, right, that the number of applications that you actually create is the number of backups that you create as well. All right. So if you create like 3 or 4 backups, that is also going to be putting you through quite a huge amount of data. I don't know if you're going to be playing around with that on your local machine. If you are streaming it to a cloud instance, or if you're streaming it to a server, for instance, you're welcome to do so. I've got a lot of things I don't want to be streaming that much. And in any case, the way the Kafka works is that it takes most, if not all, of the data and converts it into bits. All right. So everything is stored in bytes. So you can stream images, and there will be one example where we'll actually be streaming video and images. Um, but we first have to convert it into bits and into bytes, and then it is then stored as bytes. So yeah, that's much further ahead. For now, we're just going to be looking at creating our topics. Now, we also want to make sure that uh, we can check how many topics we actually have. All right. So in this instance, you would then um, still be using the Kafka topics um, file. All right. You would then enter in dot backslash bin backslash windows backslash Kafka dot cat dash topics dot bat, and then what you want to do is that you want to list. So you're not creating, you're not deleting yet. You just want to list the different kinds of topics that you actually have, right? So you would then say dash dash list space dash dash bootstrap server localhost 9092. Um, and I want you to tell me how many topics I have. So if you run that, it will then tell you all of the different um, topics that you have. And I've also got consumer offsets, which we'll talk about that one in a moment. But hypothetically, your consumer offsets is once you've created your consumers, where it then stores those kind of messages temporarily up until it actually puts them through, right? So that's what your consumer offsets are, but we're not going to go into too much detail around that. What we just want to do is be able to identify um, the number of topics that we have. Right. So we now have a clear idea as to how many topics we have. So we're now going to go into the next step, and in this next step, we're going to be looking at primarily, um, you know, actually getting some messages into our Zookeeper topics. All right. And this hypothetically is a little bit easier. All right. Once you've gotten the hang of it. You don't even necessarily need a new terminal window. You could just continue on the one that you had previously where you were creating the topics. But I think it might just be a good idea if you so choose to open up a new terminal window, right? We're going to now be creating our producer where all the topics, you know, the thing that issues out the data, right? So as I said, it could have been an IoT device, it could be an IoT enabled thermostat, it could be uh, a pacemaker, for instance, right? All of that information, anything that is needed to then send out information, um, and send any kind of information out, right? That is able to be recorded in this system, you would then be calling that a producer, right? And for each producer, you want it linked to a particular topic, all right? Um, and also, you also want it linked to a particular um, broker or server, right? And that is where it's going to be going through, right? So um, we're going to just create a console one, and that, as I said, is going to be, I'm going to do it in the terminal for now, nothing fancy. So while we're still, I'm going to be using the same one because I said, um, you could use it or alternatively open up a new one. Just for convenience, I'm just going to keep on using the same one to create my producer. All right. And we're also going to do something really cool in terms of the producer. We're going to send some messages as well. So from this folder, or if you open up a new one, you would need to cd into the Kafka folder, all right? And you would then enter in this particular code, right? Which is um, dot backslash bin backslash windows backslash Kafka dash console dash producer dot bat. That is the file name. I want you to run this file, right? So you're telling your computer, go in, find this part of the file, and I want you to then um, search for the broker list. Now, your broker list is basically your zookeepers or your servers, right? That is where your brokers are, all right? And you're saying, all right, search to find me this particular one, and the one that I'm looking for is localhost 90 uh, 9092. That's the one I'm looking for. Find that. Once you found it, I want you to then further, I want you to look at the topic dates. And in that topic dates, that is where you're going to create this particular producer. All right. So I'm basically also, and as you said, it is a pub sub. Um, so it's a uh, published subscription uh, platform, right? That is the real power behind Kafka, right? Now, I'm basically saying I'm subscribing to this particular um, uh, topic, right? And I want you to now, um, no, I'm publishing, sorry, publishing to this particular topic, right? So I'm going to be putting out, creating data that is going to go into this particular topic, all right? So the best way to do it, as I said, I'm wanting to do it via the console. So I'm basically saying console. I want you to now be where I am going to be issuing out this data. All right. So Bob's your uncle. And now, as you can see, if you look over here, uh, what we're going to do to actually make sure that we are looking at the same thing. All right. So I'm going back to the terminal, right? And as I said before, um, I want you to look at topic dates, all right? And this is the server that you must be looking for. And this is the file that I'll be using, which, if you look, is exactly the same one as over there, right? So it is in the topics that one, right? However, in this one, I'm basically saying I want now the console to then become where I then publish these messages from. So let us, okay, let's not publish to dates. Let's terminate this particular batch job. Okay, and I don't want to publish to topic dates. I want to publish to topic test topics. I think that's the topic that we created last. Yes, test topic. Test topic. Cool. All right. Now, this is a test. A test of Kafka producer to produce messages that will go to a consumer. This, this message was created before we created the consumer. It should be QUEUE and read out in the consumer in the in this order that I created it in. All right. So there are some basic messages, right? So we're going to stop here for now. What I want to now do is actually see where all of these messages are going to. For the time being, right? For the time being, all of these messages are being queued up in your consumer offsets. Right? That's where they're waiting. They're waiting for something to happen, right? And it's basically there we're saying, oh, okay, I'll wait, I'll queue them up, right? Oh, that's just correct. Yeah. So they're waiting, and we're basically saying, all right, so you guys just wait around up until we create the consumer, right? And what is really cool about Kafka, and you'll see in a moment, is that all of these messages over here, we have, once we've created the consumer, we will be able to actually see them, and they should be in this particular order. So this is a test of Kafka producer to produce messages that will go to a consumer. This message was created before them. And before we created the consumer, it should be queued and read out in the consumer in this order that I have created it in with the spelling correction of have, right? They should hypothetically come through in the order that I have set them up right now, all right? So being um, this one being first and this one being the last. Let's create our consumer and actually see if that is exactly what's happening, right? So in theory, that is what should happen. And yeah, so in theory, that is what should happen. Um, it's another thing altogether if that is what does happen. So let's go back and actually figure out how to create a consumer. All right. So open up a separate terminal window, right? And we are keeping all of those other windows running. We haven't stopped any of those particular processes from running because they are vital to actually making sure that this does actually run. Right. So we want to begin seeing these messages that we've created in the producer. So what we'll then do is that we'll use a particular line of code, which is dot backslash bin windows Kafka. Oh, just be careful, it's not double backslash, it's just single. Um, Kafka dash console dash consumer dot bat. That is the name of the file that I want you to look at. All right? And I want you to then dash dash bootstrap server localhost 9092. That is where you're going to be looking at. That's the broker, right? That's where everything is going through. And I want you now to be looking for this particular topic. This is now where I am subscribing, right? So I'm now subscribing to this particular topic, and the topic is topic name. And I'm basically saying, all right, I want you to run from the beginning. All right. So we're not actually going to see if this actually does work. As I said, you remember I said it should run in the order that we wrote the name. All right. So hypothetically, the order that we wrote these messages in is the order that we should be able to get them out. So we're going to run a terminal window. All right. And in this terminal window, we're going to firstly, we're going to try and identify if we can actually pick up the particular topics, all right? And if it does pick up the topic, does it actually start from when we began that particular thread or stream of messages, all right? So let's go through and open up a fourth terminal window, or in some cases, this will be a fifth, but for me, it's my fourth, right? And I'm basically saying, all right, I'll see to correct this over here because it's a single topic. All right, so dot backslash bin backslash windows backslash Kafka dash console dash consumer dot bat. This is where I'm now subscribing and I'm saying, all right, this is the file. I want you to go to look at this particular broker, and I want you to look at this particular topic. And in this topic, I want you to begin everything from the beginning. Let's hope the demo gods are with me on this instance, but I think it should run. All right. So let's then see. So hypothetically, what we should be seeing is, hey, here we go. This is a test of the of Kafka producers produced messages that will go to a consumer. This message was created before we created the consumer. It should be queued and read out in the consumer in this order that I had created it in with the spelling correction of have. All right. Now I want to see if I can actually do something. Right? I want to try and get to see the different messages. hypothetically, I should be able to do the following. I should be able to then get the messages, and I should be able to, as I say, hypothetically, I should be able to then get both of them um, to happen in real time. Right? So we now know that it actually does allow for these messages to be stored, but I want to see if they actually come through in real time as well. Right? I did say that it should give me in real time, so let's hope that it does come through in real time. So I am now going to be looking at this one over here, and let's see if this works. Right. So hypothetically, what I should have is the following. I should be able to, in this terminal, say this is a real-time message, all right? And I'm going to hit enter. And if I go over here to terminal 4, this is a real-time message. Okay, so this is about as real-time as you can get it, right? So it's not as I'm doing something, it is then processing. It is as I have sent that message through, it is then processing, right? If that makes sense. So it's not exactly saying, oh, the moment or the instant that you actually do something, it is going to come through. No, it is saying the moment. The moment you are actually doing something. So sometimes basically that's what it is. Once the message has been sent, that is only when you're able to receive it, right? This is amazing in terms of um, some of your IoT devices because they would then send out those messages almost in milliseconds, right? So they can send out those messages in milliseconds, and that is fairly close to real time, right? So if I'm going to try and do this, let me see if let's see if we are able to then create what I want to create, which is right. So let me just put this up here, right? So hypothetically, what I should be able to do is this might work a little bit better. There we go. All right, so let's see how close to real time we can actually get this. All right, so I just sent this. This is a few milliseconds of one. Fairly quick. All right. So as soon as I've sent the message, it is already coming through. All right. And that is one of the reasons why Kafka is being used by so many companies um, around the world that do batch processing of huge, large sums of data at an instant. And they want to be able to then have this going through in real time. So I imagine in something like a bank, right, they would have immense uses for something like this to be able to update your balance as you go forward, right? So these are some of the practical uses in which you would then have Kafka, um, showing off and showing its actual work, right? So this is how we would then end this particular session in terms of just an introduction into what Kafka is and getting your own Kafka cluster running. And to just end all of the sessions, you would just press Control C as we experienced before. So you Control C and then it will terminate the session and it will then allow you to then close all of your terminal windows and then continue with your day as you would, right? I'm hoping that if you do have any questions, we'll be able to then cover them in a deep dive. wonderful afternoon, or evening, or day, or morning, and happy exploring. There is some additional notes as to where you can actually get some insights in terms of how to work with Kafka, and some of the different streaming services that you could then use. Um, they are included in the Getting Started with Kafka link, and also in the Apache Kafka use cases. All of this is from the Apache Kafka site, so you'll be more than um, you know able to navigate through to it and identify how to use it and what its use cases are. And once again, because it's open source, it's completely free, so you do not have to incur any further costs. Maybe your machine might be not liking you that much, but do have fun and play around with some of the things that you can then do with Kafka. And till the next one, have a good one.